Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for connecting again for day 5. We are coming to the 5th day of our discussion. Thank you so much for connecting. Brilliant questions have been asked. I'm really enjoying reading some of those questions, and it is giving me so much of joy to see that youth today are so introspective, so much keen on improving their own selves and performance, wanting to improve their productivity, wanting to develop more self control over their lives, improve their schedules. Congratulations for being so positive minded and having hope that you can actually transform and improve yourself and transform society. With those opening words, I would like to now take on the first question for today. And this question is on leadership. Yes, leadership means influence, and I'm sure many of you who are watching today's session are keen to be powerful, influential leaders. Is it not? We have Jay Gopal from Delhi on WhatsApp who asks, what are some qualities which help us trust a leader? Very beautiful question. What are some of the qualities which help us trust a leader? So I'll read from chapter 17 of the book, The Art of Resilience. And I have on this chapter 17, leadership means integrity, and the human quality is integrity. So, very important and beautiful section. And in this, basically, I share the story of the famous minister whose name is Chanakya. And there is a story of a Chinese scholar who came to India to study the culture and leaders. And he heard about Chanakya. So, after a long journey, the scholar reached the palace and he was surprised that Chanakya never stayed in the royal residence. The guards pointed him to the location of Chanakya's hut and they told him, don't try any gifts or any other kinds of bribes towards Chanakya. So the scholar was surprised, and then as he went there, he looked at the hut, it looked so small. And the guard said, yes, this is where he lives, and the door is kept small to invoke humility. As when they come in to meet him, they have to bow to enter. And so, as Chanakya is sitting inside, this Chinese traveler enters inside the hut. It was dark inside. There was a lamp which was glowing, and the Chinese scholar saw that Chanakya was writing something on a piece of paper. And then, as soon as the guards introduced the Chinese traveler to Chanakya, he at that point of time stopped writing. He put out that lamp on which he was working, came to the main hallway where he would meet guests, switched on one more lamp, and he started talking to this gentleman. The Chinese traveler was speaking on, and then at the end, when they concluded, Chanakya again put down this lamp, went back to that original lamp, switched it on, and started working again on whatever he was working before. So the Chinese traveler became very intrigued and he said, I see that you switched off the first lamp and came and switched on the second lamp, and then after our conversation was over, you went back to those documents you were working on and switched on the second lamp. What's the idea? So Chanakya, at this point, he started mentioning, well, I understood from your honorable mentions that you have not come to see me in an official capacity, but in a personal capacity. So Chanakya is telling the Chinese traveler, when you entered the hut, I was doing some official work, but not any longer. Therefore, I have doused the lamp for which the oil is paid for by the state, and I have lit the one for which I pay. Sitting at this desk, Chanakya says, I still represent my state, but in a personal capacity. I understand our talks are going to be of a personal nature, and although they will have nothing to do with the king on his work, sitting at this desk obliges me to hold dear my allegiance to my king. Therefore, I want to maintain complete transparency and have an honest exchange of dialogue with you. So, beautiful point mentioned. And here it is described Vivekah sah sampatya vinayo vidyaya sah prabhutvam prakshayo bhedam chinham etad mahatmanam. One need not take down a giant. One need not take down a giant to be known as a great person. Real greatness in people can be recognized when the riches of their character increase. This is demonstrated when one possesses wealth without losing discretion. One grows in learning while growing in humility, and one's power or influence is exercised with politeness and with a useful temperament. So, I find this story pretty fascinating because as a leader, people are always anxious to figure out who you really are, and a leader's primary commodity is trust. And therefore, people follow leaders whom they trust. And as soon as you violate that trust, people stop following you. So many leaders, they are very much anxious whether people will follow us or not. But actually, the habits and the actions reveal more than anything. So, I'll share with you five things which reveal who you are as a leader. And sometimes people may overlook these, but these five are extremely important because your actions and not your words create your leadership and your legacy. Very important point. Your actions and not your words will create your leadership and your legacy. Now, don't think leader means you have to be a corporate CEO or a minister or head of a state or something. Anyone who is having any kind of influence, whatever may be the level of your profession, whatever may be your role, even in a home, as a housewife, as a mother, as a brother, as a sister, in your family relationships, in your personal relationships, you are a leader. Why? Because you are having influence. And therefore, these are the five things you should be watching out in your role as leader. First, whether you are delivering on your promise or not. Yes, we can be speaking so many things that we will do this, do that, but trust means confidence. And the best way to establish confidence as a leader is to do what you have said. And therefore, this is extremely important. So we have to be extremely careful what we promise. Once we promise, make sure we deliver what we have promised. And then please do everything in your power not to make any kind of mistakes again. So you never need to open your mouth to determine whether they can trust you or not, because they should have that kind of a open faith in you. Second, quality as a leader is what determines you're a leader, whether you truly value your family or other people's families. This is very important because most team members, they want a senior leader to have human values. And so, if you have human values, you would respect and have close, intimate relationships with your family members. You would treat friends as family members. And this is very important on how you treat each other. In fact, many years ago, an interesting episode happened when one of the very wealthy people came to me and he said, "My trust in this temple is growing." I said, "Why?" Because I've been observing how you people deal with some of the most socially challenged personalities, those who are economically deprived. And seeing that you deal with them as if they are your family, it increases and enhances my faith. And therefore, how you value your family signals to others whether you will value their families or not. Third, what are your real priorities? So, many times there is a disconnect in leaders' minds between what they think their priorities is and what they actually are. So, therefore, whatever may be our priorities, we should spend our time on that. For example, as a practicing monk, my priority is spirituality. And therefore, the first thing in the morning, I spend my quality first 3 hours dedicated to spirituality with meditation and doing my spiritual practices. And therefore, there has to be a very important close connection between who you are and what your priorities are. And tomorrow, when you develop responsibilities, when you have teams and organizations functioning under you, as a leader, people will be very closely watching how are you prioritizing your time and your money. So therefore, dear friends, as a leader, your calendar and your organizational budget reveal what you value the most. What's that? Your calendar. That means your calendar denotes your time priorities, where you are devoting your time, with whom you are devoting your time, in what activities you are devoting your time. And number two, what is your organizational budget means how much you are spending on different activities will determine what you value the most, and that cannot be faked. The fourth things people are looking closely at a leader is to see whether people matter to this leader or not. As it is said by His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, that you know people must love other people and use things, but we are living in a day and age where people are using other people and loving things. So therefore people are meant to be loved and things are meant to be used. But in a gadget driven society, in a hedonistic society where we are trying to be the controller and enjoyer, unfortunately, many times we land up loving things and trying to use people. And therefore, it's very important that we actually demonstrate our real love and care for people by our dealings. So, how you treat people is a sign that they matter or that they don't matter. So, the fifth quality as a leader is what are you like when you are under stress, under pressure, and under some calamity? Mahavipattau samsari yasmaret madhusudana vipattau tasya sampatti bhavet ityaha shankara. Yes, when we go through adversity, what does our response be? What is our response like? And therefore, it is said that at what point of time we will experience vipatti, at what point of time we will go through sampatti, we cannot predict. But at all points of time, we have to be totally focused on how can I serve the divine will, how can I please the divine will. So, in terms of difficult conditions and situations, at times of crisis, how do we respond in that crisis is very, very important because crisis reveals character and everyone is seeing how we respond. And therefore, when Bhishmadev looked at the Pandavas and he saw Lord Krishna along with the Pandavas, Bhishma is lying on the bed of arrows. Bhishma Pitama, the most experienced, powerful general who has spent his entire life steeped in deep wisdom. He looks at the Pandavas, at the irony of all the twists and the turns that the Pandavas had to go through, the distresses they had to face. They lost the kingdom, they lost their honor at some point of time, they lost their children also. And so Bhishma Pitama says, Yatra dharma suto raja gadapanir vrikodara Krishnostri Gandivam Chapam Suhrit Krishnas Tato Vipat. Bhishma says the Pandavas are the real leaders because no amount of challenges and crisis could shake them. Just see the Pandava family. What an ideal family. What a combination of skills, values, and competencies within one family. Bhishma says, Yudhishthir Maharaj is religiosity personified, Bhima is power personified, Arjuna is skill personified, Nakul and Sahadev is loyalty personified, and Krishna is a well-wisher personified. In spite of having all of these wonderful, amazing qualities in one family, the Pandavas had to go through so many crises, difficulties, challenges, obstacles. And therefore, in spite of all of these challenges, in times of adversity, their dependence on Supreme Lord Krishna did not decrease, and they did not resort to any shortcuts. They did not cut corners. They did not resort to dishonesty. They did not leave the path of dharma. And therefore, even today, the whole world reveres the Pandavas and wants to keep people, wants to actually follow in the footsteps of the great Pandavas. So we move on to the next question, and this next question is that uh, what are some of the habits of the current young generation, and what are some of the challenges this young generation is facing, and what would you advise they do to overcome this? So this is coming from Mr. Sunil Shah on the Instagram. Thank you so much for asking, Sunil. And I want to share with you some of these principles, especially the habits of the current generation, the youth, the challenges which the youth is facing, and some of the characteristics. So I would like to share seven specific, habits or the focus areas of the current generation. The first is they are all into I watch who I want when I want. That means they have grown in the internet generation. They have the freedom to watch exactly what they want. And so the amount of choices which they have is tremendous compared to some of our generation. And therefore, we cannot force things upon them. And there are just too many appealing ways in which they could choose to spend their time. And therefore, something that isn't helpful or fun to watch is not something they would invest their time in. So that's one of the first principles. And this means that in case we are wanting to appeal to them, then we have to make sure that whatever we speak and whatever we share with them is helpful, is attractive, and it makes them feel it is worth my time. The second is if this generation feels that if you want me to listen to you or follow you for a long time, then I need to get to know you and trust you. And one of the ways by which trust is enabled for this generation is through the internet. And this means that our presence on the internet and online has to be more. Secondly, many of the things which we would typically teach people one on one, we should be teaching online and sharing ways and means by which people could learn things online. And as we connect with this generation online, they start developing faith by following useful things which they see and which they feel is relevant to them. And therefore, this is the way by which we can reach out to this generation in a tangible manner. Thirdly, this generation has been trained to view themselves as a brand. And this is a very important principle thanks to social media platforms, especially Instagram or YouTube or whatever. So people grew up viewing themselves as a brand. So, Whether it's healthy or not healthy, that's a debatable point. But the point is that we have the challenge of reaching out to a me centered generation. And so, in every topic, whether it's spirituality or practicality, we have to show what is in it for them. And this is a very important point to be considered. Fourth, this generation would actually want to avoid their parents' generation on social media, and they want to have some kind of an exclusivity, and they want to connect with each other much more than ever before. The fifth principle is, for this generation, diversity isn't optional, right? Diversity is very much part of this culture and generation. Our schools are diverse, workplaces are diverse. Now the online has made people connecting from diverse cultures connect with each other so easily. And therefore, as the ones teaching values, character, knowledge, spirituality, or for parents who are teaching discipline and good habits to their kids, or whatever, please do remember that we have to acknowledge, accept, and respect the presence of diversity. Sixth is a very important challenge the generation faces is mental health issues. And this is one of the biggest issues which this generation is facing, a sharp decline in mental health. And the irony is, thanks to the information overload we have with respect to the internet, this generation is more and more aware of the mental health crisis and what's causing it. But to be away from the phones is extremely difficult. And the addictions to the internet are growing on, increasing, and it becomes more and more difficult to keep oneself away from this. So this is a very important situation to address, and we are discussing this in our sessions. We have been sharing many such incidents during our sessions, and also shared many statistics, and we will be sharing more connected to this. Seventh is very important, that we have to communicate with this generation with the idea that we are their friends, we are connecting to them as part of a friendly camaraderie, and you know we are not trying to kind of be judgmental, or we are not trying to convince them of something, that we are just having a conversation. So this is a very important principle, that conversation is more important to this generation than someone coming to convince them. So these are some very important things which we should consider. And interestingly, let me share with you that 5,000 years ago, Krishna had exactly the similar kind of a conversation with Arjuna. You may think Bhagavad Gita was like a sermon which Krishna spoke to Arjuna. But dear friends, let me tell you that the mood in which Krishna approached speaking the Gita to Arjuna was, "Hey Arjuna, do you want to hear this?" Arjuna said that Karpanya doshopata subhava prachami tvam dharma sammuda cheta nishreyasya nishtam gurutan me shishyasteham shadimam tvam prabham. I am becoming your servant, and therefore, my dear Krishna, speak to me this knowledge. And then after Krishna spoke the entire Gita, in the end, he concluded by saying, Yathechasi tatha kuru. I have spoken whatever I wanted, speak. I have spoken whatever I wanted. Whether you want to follow or not follow, you decide. And this is what is the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. Next question. What are your views on Srimad Bhagavad Gita as a national book of India? This is a question from Avasthi Sharad Pandit on Instagram. So, Mahatma Gandhi ji, he spoke very famously that when doubts haunt me, when disappointments stare me in the face, when I see no ray of hope on the horizon, I turn to Bhagavad Gita. And when I find a verse in the Bhagavad Gita to comfort me, I immediately begin to smile in the midst of overwhelming sorrow. Very, very beautiful point. And in the Gita Mahatmya, Adi Shankaracharya ji has spoken, Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogdha Gopalanandana Partho Vatsa Sudirbhokta Dugdham Gitamritam Vachah. So the Upanishads, if they are like cow, the milkman is Krishna, who is the son of Nanda Maharaj. The calf is Arjuna. The milk is the beautiful nectar of the Bhagavad Gita. And the fortunate devotees who hear this theistic dialogue are the most fortunate. And therefore, if one reads Bhagavad Gita seriously, sincerely, with all seriousness, the reactions of his past misdeeds will not act upon him. So Shankaracharya also says, Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gitam Evo Devo Devaki Putra Evo Eko Mantrastasya Namani Yani Karma Pekam Tasya Devasya Seva. A very holistic approach has been recommended by Sripad Shankaracharya. And he says, yes, Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gitam. If there is only one holy scripture, the divine Gita, spoken by Lord Krishna, if there is one worshipable Lord Krishna, there is one mantra of his holy names, and one duty, that of devotional service unto Krishna, then one will experience tremendous transformation in society. And therefore, dear friends, our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji inaugurated the world's largest and heaviest Bhagavad Gita in Delhi ISKCON temple in 2019 February. As per the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust International, and especially the BBT Europe, which published this, His Grace Madhu Sevita Prabhu was instrumental in this project for publishing this gigantic Bhagavad Gita. This Bhagavad Gita, it measures 2.8 meters by 2 meters, 2.8 meters in length, 2 meters by width. It has 670 pages and weighs 800 kilos. And this is considered to be the world's largest sacred book. So, yes, coming to the question of should Bhagavad Gita be accepted? Well, we have discussed so many wonderful dimensions of why the Bhagavad Gita is so important, so powerful, and has the power to unite and has all the concepts of Ishvara, Kala, Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Kala, Karma within this one literature. And so, within our social fabric, there needs to be attention and emphasis given to the study and the understanding of the Bhagavad Gita. Because most important is that we try to understand the Gita in our personal lives. Therefore, dear friends, those of you who are watching online, thank you very much for coming online and being so inquisitive and curious about spiritual topics. Yes, you can go online and there is vedabase.io, which is the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust International's online portal. You will see the plethora of Vedic literatures. You can read Gita online, you can read Bhagavatam online, you can read Chaitanya Charitamrita online. And therefore, yes, we do encourage people to read and study Bhagavad Gita. Well, we have only influence over what we can do. And as International Society for Krishna Consciousness, since Srila Prabhupada founded ISKCON in 1966, as of 2021, ISKCON has distributed more than 50 crore Bhagavad Gitas globally in more than 70 languages. So, therefore, actions speak louder than words, and we are happy to continue in our mission of printing the Bhagavad Gitas, spreading the message of the Bhagavad Gitas, and sharing the message of the Bhagavad Gita with all sections of society, including the youth, like all of you who are connected this evening, so that you understand the message of the Gita in your particular context. Next question, which is asked, is what would be the consequence if all the temples of India are free? Would it be a sign for reviving of our culture again? Would it not be misused by where there is no parampara system? Vinod M on Instagram. As many of you may be aware that today there are 2 million temples in India. The world population is approximately 7.6 billion, out of which 31% are Christians, 23% are Muslims, 16% are agnostics, and 15% are Hindus. Almost 7.5% are Buddhists. So almost 1 billion of the world's population is Hindus, and these temples are revered by them. They worship their lords in these temples. And yes, traditionally the temples were being patronized by the kings, and history in India is replete with such examples. In today's context, if those who are managing the temples and administering the temples are not having full idea about how to do it, it should be much better to give these temples in the hands of those who are willing to handle, take responsibility, and run it in the best possible manner. And therefore, the whole idea of a temple is that temple is like a hospital, and a hospital for treating the mind. And the medicine in in this hospital is the mantra. The doctors are the devotees who are serving in these temples. The diet is the prasadam which is distributed in these temples. Therefore, if the question is, should the hospitals be run by the government? Should the hospitals be run by private agencies? The most important question is that who can run the hospitals best? So, in the current scenario, it appears that if the temples are run by those who are devoted, who are devotees, who have complete faith and dedication in the selfless service of the Supreme Lord, then they would be in a better position to serve the cause of Sanatan Dharma better. As Confucius says that the strength of a nation derives from the integrity of the home. And therefore, when you are able to maintain the highest standards of integrity, regardless of what others may do, you are destined for greatness. And therefore, the most striking thing is we have to be honest with ourselves. And if we have not transformed and changed ourselves, we cannot have impact on others. As Nelson Mandela said, the greatest peacemakers are all people of integrity, of honesty, and humility. Therefore, India ranks currently 86th amongst 200 countries in the Global Corruption Index in 2020. So, if we are concerned and bothered and worried about influence of corruption, yes, I think it's very important that we put up proper governance. And what I really appreciate about many of the other spiritual organizations in other traditions is that a lot of effort has gone in creating proper blueprint and SOPs for administering and governing such spiritual organizations. And therefore, it is high time that temples also come together, collaborate on creating forums by which the top administrators of all these temples can come together. And we have what is known as a Hindu Mandir Executive Council, by which we can actually come together, discuss issues we are facing, just like industry bodies of similar industries come together and have their bodies. So why should the Hindu temples come together and organizations come together only in Kumbh Mela and only once in 6 years or 12 years? Why can't we come together on a regular basis discuss common issues, concerns, challenges we are facing, and discuss best practices, share those best practices, and try to help each other grow. So, for those of you in the audience who are interested, during the pandemic last year, our team created a beautiful website. And if you wish, you can visit that website. I was very passionate about making this, and that's called as www.organizeyourtemple.com. So this is one of my passion areas where I want that Hindu temples and different temples of spiritual organizations of a like-minded set come together and discuss areas by which they can improve and give enhanced experience to the pilgrims who are coming and visiting. So please do visit www.organizeyourtemple.com and share with me some of your experiences and what you liked about it. Let's go to the next question, which is Aman Upadhyay on Instagram. He asks, please tell us about the Govardhan Eco Village and how can we visit there and spend time to learn. So, thank you very much, Aman, for asking this question. Well, as we are speaking about the art of resilience, first of all, I want to share that I wrote this book, The Art of Resilience, in Govardhan Eco Village last year during the pandemic. Because when the pandemic suddenly struck and there was a sudden lockdown, and practically all of our plans were turned topsy turvy. I remember April 24th, 2020, I was scheduled to fly to London, and then April end to USA, and then May first week to Brazil, and then come back and travel all over USA and spend a good 1 month in New York City, and then travel back to India only in July. That was the, as they call it, the original plan. But as all of you have experienced, the last year's pandemic turned everyone's plan topsy turvy, and I I had to be locked down in the Govardhan Eco Village, and there was a call from the district collector that in the face of this sudden lockdown and so many migrants are in crisis, can ISKCON support and help by distributing some free food? And so, as soon as the lockdown began, our intense karma yoga began as we started feeding almost 10,000 plates and packets of prasadam to the migrant people who were stranded in different parts of Palghar district, including Vasai. And as a result, almost 20 days to 25 days went in this exercise. And you will be happy to know that in Govardhan Eco Village, we have been running a Govardhan Annakshetra. Typically, traditional temples have always been running Annakshetras, which means free meal distribution program to anyone who visits the temple as pilgrims and to all those around that particular temple also. Srila Prabhupada in Mayapur in 1971 made a very strict instruction that anyone in several miles radius around Mayapur Dham should not go hungry. And following in the footsteps of the mood of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, we are running this Govardhan Annakshetra. And I'm also happy to share that all the proceeds from the sale of the Art of Resilience book will be going towards the Govardhan Annakshetra program. And therefore, as I sat down to write this book last year, I was reflecting on the importance of resilience. And then I immediately connected with the fact that the Govardhan Eco Village has been created to enable resilience. People in the cities going through stress, their greatest need, peace. People in the villages going through economic stress, their greatest need, paisa. So we thought, how can the needs of those in the city be connected to those in the village? So the needs of peace in the city was connected to needs of paisa in the village by creating a 100-acre hub and spoke model project called the Govardhan Eco Village, which is now accredited to United Nations Environment Program, United Nations Committee for Combating Desertification, United Nations Economic and Social Council and was awarded in 2017 by United Nations World Tourism Organization as an NGO for ecotourism as a catalyst for rural development. So, dear friends, we have combined the needs of providing mental resilience to folks from the city by giving them an exposure to Ayurveda and yoga and spirituality and Vrindavan forest tours with facility for joining us in our rural development initiatives in 75 villages across the Govardhan Eco Village. And therefore, this beautiful project with currently 120 rooms is inviting all of you, of course, post lockdown, to come and experience a transformation, experience Vrindavan 2 hours away from Mumbai, experience yoga, experience Ayurveda, authentic Kerala Ayurveda, experience learning the wisdom of the Gita, of the Vedanta, of the Upanishads in short bites of 3 days, 7 days, 14 days, 1 month, and online courses by which you can develop your own spiritual and mental resilience. Therefore, as we are enabling your resilience, when you come and spend with us, that helps us enable the economic resilience and the social resilience of the sector we are surrounded by in Palghar district. As you know, the 8 talukas in Palghar district, they are highly economically challenged and impoverished. And tomorrow we'll be showing you a small video of that particular presentation which we had made in the UNWTO in 2017 for ecotourism as a catalyst for rural development. In conclusion, thank you for asking that question. And from my side and from all the folks at the Govardhan Eco Village, a hearty welcome to you to visit us and spend time with us and improve the quality of your consciousness. I hope this helps. Next question. अनुभव सिंह ऑन इंस्टा आस्क्स, प्रभु जी आप शुरू से ही भक्ति में इंटरेस्टेड थे या आपका कोई इंस्पिरेशन था? Thank you, Anubhav ji, for asking. I have shared a lot of details with in my podcast with Jay Shetty, and it's there on his Instagram and YouTube. But the idea is that yes, I was interested in spirituality in different ways. I was specifically very interested to know what is the cause of death and what is the principle of death. Is it possible to conquer death? I was following a regular life as a student, studying, having a certain goal in mind, but not having a forum where many of these ideological questions could be answered. Then I came across the Bhagavad Gita, and this Bhagavad Gita gave me the answers to the questions which I was looking for. And when I got the answers to who am I, who is God, is there life after death, what is karma, what are the laws of karma, why do bad things happen to good people, then it was like, wow, this is an eye opener. And that's how my sanskaras, which were almost always inclined towards ritual practices, came to the level of being spiritual. And I think that was a very important turn, and that happened in connection with the devotees. Thank you for asking that question. The next question is from Bittu on Instagram, who says, we know what is right and what is wrong, but in spite of this, why do we do the wrong thing? Beautiful question. Sarvesh Nanchi on Instagram says, how to get rid of addiction? Yash Tiwari on Instagram says, how to control lust, sir? Siddharth Sharma on Insta says, Guruji, can you shed some light upon the huge problem of porn addiction? Something the mind aggravates over time, and how to get rid of it. Dhruv K on Instagram asks, how to control the senses? So, this is a very, very important question being asked, and in the chapter 19 of the art of resilience, I have one beautiful story called The Fool's Friendship is Fatal and the Human Quality of Self Discipline. And this is the story of a person who's going around seeking a guru. And he comes to a guru who he accepts. His name is Pragya Bodha, means one who's learned through discrimination. But the disciple is Chanchal Ichha, as many of the questions indicate. What is Chanchal Ichha mean? Chanchal Ichha means wandering desire. And both Guru and disciple Chanchal Ichha come to a strange country. And what is the name of this strange country? It's called Dreamland or Sapnapur. So Sapnapur means, good luck to you if you enter there and what will happen to you. And it is ruled by a king whose name is Buddhihin, whose brain is completely destroyed. And the cravings, the restlessness, the longing. You are just daydreaming as if your happiness is dependent on the attainment of that particular object, even if that object, to attain that object, may be immoral. Please know that thoughts ultimately trigger the emotions, and those emotions, when intensified, become cravings, and those cravings go into intentions. You are lost in fantasies. You are convinced that what we seek is not what we want, but this is what I need. This grows into irresistible passion. And then these intentions will graduate when you act upon it. When those intentions turn into actions. So, dear friends, this is a vicious cycle. Thoughts, emotions, intentions, actions. And today, you have asked this question on how to control our thoughts and how to control our habits. The same question was asked by Arjuna to Krishna. अथ केन प्रयुक्तोऽयं पापं चरति पुरुष अनिच्छन्नपि वार्ष्णेय बलात् इव नियोजित. Arjuna says, "O Krishna, why is it that although I know I should not do something, still I am impelled to do that activity? I am forced to do that activity as if some unseen force is dragging me. Why am I doing this, Krishna?" And Krishna says very beautifully, Kama esha krodha esha rajoguna samudbhava mahashano mahapapma vidhenam miha vairinam. It is lust only, O Arjuna, which forces you to engage in this activity. So we see that, on cigarette packets it is written, smoking is injurious for health. Globally, tobacco is killing 6 million people every year. That's one death every 5 seconds. One, two, three, four, five. One person has died somewhere on the planet because of abuse due to smoking or tobacco. And out of the total number of these deaths, almost 600,000 deaths are amongst those who are non smokers. They are inhaling secondhand smoke. And then in 2017, it was revealed that smoking causes almost death of 8 million people prematurely. And so 15% of the global deaths is attributed to smoking. And therefore, We have to be very careful when we are dealing with our habits. It may start just like this, like someone may say, I just smoke once in a while. Another people, another category which you have just mentioned in your question is pornography. As I discussed the other day, almost 30,000 users are there on the internet every second watching pornography. Almost $3,000 is being spent every second on pornography on the internet. And therefore, we have to get out of this loop by cultivating two things. Number one, discrimination. Number two, determination. Now, the question is, how do you develop discrimination and determination? Number three, focus on mantra meditation. And when you do that, you will experience a connection with a higher power, which will give you the strength to resist such temptations. And therefore, please know that break the habits that can break you before they break you. And it's very important that good habits be cultivated, because good habits befriend time and bad habits belittle time. And one of the most effective things you can do to build better habits is to join a culture where your desired behavior is normal behavior. What is that? Association. So, what are the four things you must do? What is the ABCD of habit transformation? A for association. Associate with those who are like minded, who want to resist temptations, who want to control their senses. B for books. Read books which will highlight the importance of such values and culture. Read books like the Bhagavad Gita, which will give you strength. C is chant. Engage in mantra meditation. And when you chant, your mind becomes powerful. Manastrayate iti manaha. Your mind is weak, so it succumbs. Strengthen the mind. Develop the core muscle of the mind through mantra meditation. And D stands for diet. Transform your diet. Make your diet more sattvic. And if possible, you actually honor purified vegetarian food, which we call as prasadam, and that will completely transform your consciousness, elevate you above rajogun and tamagun, and bring you to the state of sattvagun. So thank you very much for asking these beautiful, wonderful questions. I'm so glad that all of you are coming forward and joining us as part of this community. And we hope and pray that we can continue this journey. And as part of this journey, we are really, really happy to see that all of you are joining us. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.
Radha Krishna Yugala Milana Jaya Jaya Radha Krishna Yugala Milana Jaya Jaya Radha Krishna Yugala Milana Jaya Jaya Radha Krishna Yugala Milana Arati Karaye Lalita Adi Sakhi Gana Arati Karaye Lalita Adi Sakhi Gana Jaya Jaya Radha Krishna Yugala Milana Jaya Jaya Radha Krishna Yugala Milana Madana Mohana Rupa Tribanga Sundara Madana Mohana पीताम्बर शिखी पोछ चूड़मनोहार पीताम्बर शिखी पोछ चूड़मनोहार जय जय राधा कृष्ण युगल मिलाना राधा कृष्ण युगल मिलाना आरती कर ये ललिता आदि सखी गाना आरती कर ये ललिता आदि सखी ललिता माधव वामे वृषभानुकन्या ललिता माधव वामे वृषभानुकन्या सुनील वसना गौरी रूपे गुणे धन्या सुनील वसना गौरी रूपे गुणे धन्या जय जय राधा कृष्ण युगल मिलाना जय जय राधा कृष्ण युगल मिलाना आरती कर ये ललिता आदि सखी गाना आरती कर ये ललिता आदि सखी गाना नानाविध अलंकार करे झलमाला नानाविध अलंकार करे झलमाला हरिमन विमोहन वदना उज्ज्वला हरिमन विमोहन वदना उज्ज्वला जय जय राधा कृष्ण युगल मिलाना जय जय राधा कृष्ण युगल मिलाना आरती कर ये ललिता आदि सखी गाना आरती कर ये ललिता आदि सखी गाना विशाखादि सखी जना नाना रागे गाया विशाखादि सखी जना नाना रागे गाया प्रिय नर्मा सखी जता चामर डुलाया प्रिय नर्मा सखी जता चामर डुलाया जय जय राधा कृष्ण युगल मिलाना जय जय राधा कृष्ण युगल मिलाना आरती कर ये ललिता आदि सखी गाना आरती कर ये ललिता आदि सखी गाना श्री राधा माधव पद सरसी जाशे श्री राधा माधव पद सरसी जाशे भक्ति विनोद सखी पदे सुखे भासे भक्ति विनोद सखी पदे सुखे भासे से। जय जय राधा कृष्ण युगल मिलन। 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 जिनका नाम है गोकुल जिनका धाम है। कृष्णा जिनका नाम है गोकुल जिनका धाम है। ऐसे श्री भगवान को बारंबार प्रणाम है। ऐसे श्री भगवान को बारंबार प्रणाम। ओ ऐसे श्री भगवान को बारंबार प्रणाम है। बज रे बजो गोविंदा गोपाल रे बज। ओ बज रे बजो गोविंदा गोपाल रे। बोलो राधे गोविंदा राधे गोविंदा। राधे गोपाला राधे गोपाला। ऐसे श्री भगवान को अद्भुत जिनकी माया है राधा जिनकी छाया है। अद्भुत जिनकी माया है राधा जिनकी छाया है। अद्भुत जिनकी माया है राधा जिनकी छाया है। अद्भुत जिनकी माया है। ऐसे श्री घनश्याम को बारंबार प्रणाम है। ऐसे श्री घनश्याम को बारंबार प्रणाम है। लूट लूट दधि माखन खायो, ग्वाल बाल संग धेनु चरायो। लूट लूट दधि माखन खायो, ग्वाल बाल संग धेनु चरायो। लूट लूट दधि माखन खायो, ग्वाल बाल संग धेनु चरायो। ऐसे लीला धाम को मेरा बारंबार प्रणाम है। ऐसे लीला धाम को मेरा बारंबार प्रणाम है। द्रुपद सुता की लाज बचायो, ग्रह से गज को फंद छुड़ायो। द्रुपद सुता की लाज बचायो, ग्रह से गज को छुड़ायो। द्रुपद सुता की लाज बचायो, ग्रह से गज को फंद छुड़ायो। ऐसे कृपा धाम को बारंबार प्रणाम है। ऐसे कृपा धाम को बारंबार प्रणाम है। कुरु पांडव में युद्ध मचायो, अर्जुन को उपदेश सुनायो। कुरु पांडव कुरु पांडव में युद्ध मचायो, अर्जुन को उपदेश सुनायो। ऐसे दीनानाथ को बारंबार प्रणाम है। बजरे बजो गोविंदा गोपाल रे। बजरे बजो गोविंदा गोपाल रे। बजरे बोलो राधे गोविंदा, राधे गोविंदा, राधे गोपाला, राधे गोपाला, राधे गोपाला, राधे गोपाला। ऐसे श्री